In a way, America was forged in Pennsylvania's Lehigh Valley. The steel girders and plates that built Manhattan and the US Navy were made in the blast furnaces of the Bethlehem Steel Company. When the mills closed, the impact on valley towns like Bethlehem and Allentown was so severe, Billy Joel sang about it.
Well, we're living here in Allentown, and they're closing all the factories down. Out in Bethlehem, they're killing time.
When you hear a song like that, you're looking in the mirror, because that's about you. And it was hard.
Now, Bethlehem is booming, unemployment's low, and the economy is strong. Bethlehem sits in Northampton County, where voters have a knack of picking the winner of US presidential elections.
I'd say we're purple, and I think we've proven that in the election. I think this election, it's sort of a toss-up, but you just don't know. And what's really interesting, Trump people in particular, they don't, you know, they're not, they know who they're voting for, they're just not shouting it from the rooftops.
Reflecting the changes in the valley, the rusted hulk of the Bethlehem plant is now an arts precinct and tourist attraction. Former steelworker Don Young is one of the site's guides.
The number 7 locomotive here is the locomotive that took scrap from my stockyard.
Joe Biden won the county 4 years ago, and if Don Young has his wish, Kamala Harris will take it next week.
My vote for Kamala Harris is simply based on she is not Donald Trump. And with Kamala Harris, I expect the democratic traditions of the country to be continued. And under Donald Trump, I fear he is going to wreck the democratic United States form of government.
This 87-year-old is no Democrat.
I am a registered Republican, but I am a real old-school Republican, whereas Donald Trump is not a true Republican. The Republican Party is now a cult of Trump.
Why do you think reasonable American Republicans, because there's plenty of them,
Yes.
would vote for Donald Trump?
Because he preaches a rosy future without any real statistics or plans to back it up. I think they're listening to just a bunch of empty promises.
The divisions in this county are between neighbours, friends, and even within households.
My wife is an ardent Trump supporter. She really looks at Trump as the orange Jesus, the savior of the nation.
Gary Ward considers himself independent, but he'll vote for Donald Trump next week.
When I pull that lever or mark my ballot, I'm going to be holding my nose, literally, because I want to demonstrate that I'm not really happy with whom I'm voting for. The man, by the way. Policies, I'm all over his policies, but don't like the guy.
And what don't you like about him?
You know, he's obstinate, he's belligerent, he's full of himself, and it's not my kind of person.
Given the felony convictions, the sex assault allegations, and the wild language, it can be hard for outsiders to work out why this race is close at all. But Donald Trump has broad appeal. This community is split right down the middle, and all sorts of reasonable, smart Americans believe in what Donald Trump represents.
I respect his business acumen.
Gary Ward sells carpets made in places like Iran and Afghanistan. He's a fan of Trump's plan to introduce a 20% tariff on imports.
I like the idea of protecting American jobs because, you know, right now we're sitting in what was an old iron foundry, and America was the king of steel. Our steel industry now is a shadow of what it was, so I'm okay with the tariffs.
Well, tariffs would make carpets more expensive, wouldn't it?
I guess they probably would, but I could think I'm willing to bite the bullet on that. Yeah.
Polls suggest that 60% of men will vote for Trump, while a similar proportion of women support the Democrats.
Oh, my wife is going to vote for the Democratic candidate, Kamala Harris.
And what's that done to household relations?
The vibe is not good. That's why I just can't wait until this election is over and we can get back to being, you know, a friendly husband and wife. It's just, I'm surprised the first time in our over 50-year marriage where an election has actually impacted the way we're treating each other.
There's a gender divide inside the carpet warehouse too. Kathy Scrappitz is the office manager.
Most of my friends are Democrats and will vote that way. We're voting for the lesser of two evils. I will not vote for someone who has taken my daughter's choice away. I know I'm super emotional about it. He's just not a good person. He's not a good person. He's a felon, 34 counts, convicted felon. He could be running the country from prison. Like, isn't that funny? Not in a ha-ha kind of way either. Kind of mind-blowing that there are such smart people who will still vote for him. For me, it's just mind-blowing.
One of those smart people voting for Trump is emergency room doctor and former Democrat voter Jim Sweetland.
I love the man, but he does not have a filter from his brain to his mouth. So a lot of things will come out unfiltered. And that's his downfall, I think, as well as his strength.
85% casualty rate.
In July, Sweetland was in the crowd at a Trump rally in Butler, Pennsylvania.
Take a look at what happened.
One of the bullets that missed Donald Trump hit another audience member, Gore Comparatore. Dr. Sweetland scrambled through the crowd to help.
Person was twisted and had fallen, and he was a big guy, 6'2", probably about 210, and I couldn't lift him. I tried to lift him to get him back up on the bench. He was between the seats, and Rico Elmore showed up out of the blue, and then I did CPR while Rico held a blue towel to his head, applied pressure, and I did mouth-to-mouth and compressions on him.
Comparatore was fatally wounded. His wife was by his side. Dr. Sweetland is now undergoing counselling.
So tell me why, as an emergency room physician, someone who's used to seeing trauma and death, why you think that you have some sort of PTSD from that day?
I think it was a look in her eye, and I was just shocked, and I realized that somebody was really trying to assassinate Trump.
While Dr. Sweetland was trying to save Comparatore, he didn't know whether Donald Trump had survived.
And I realized later it's when Trump gets up and he's pumping his fist and saying, "Fight, fight." And I think that's the essence of Trump, is he's a fighter. Mm-hmm. And people that follow him or supporters really think he's fighting for him.
Does America need a fighter, or does it need a peacemaker to bring the country back together again?
I think they need a fighter. They need a fighter, someone that's strong. They look at him as being someone that's strong, that will put America on the right path, so to speak. And that's in so many ways. By that I mean economy, secure borders, raise our stature back up. He is the sort of person that seems to have America's best interest.